Once you know this formula, nothing can stop you. Most people go through life thinking that reality is solid, fixed, and purely physical. They believe in the tangibility of things, the ground beneath their feet, the walls around them, the weight of the world on their shoulders. But what would you say if I revealed to you that this understanding of reality is fundamentally wrong? What if you knew that the true nature of reality is far more fluid, dynamic, and, above all, non-physical? Once you grasp this, nothing can stop you. The reality we typically perceive is just the visible part of the iceberg. Beneath the surface, everything we call real is composed of things that, in fact, are not what they seem, at least not in the way we think. At the atomic level, matter is mostly empty space. The particles that form matter are not entirely solid either. At the most fundamental level, the atoms, the basic building blocks of all physical objects, are made up of more than 99% empty space. The particles that make up the rest of the matter are described by quantum mechanics as existing in probabilistic states rather than solid, fixed forms. This means that what we see and touch is only a small part of a much larger puzzle. The physical world is just a shadow, a derivative of a deeper, non-physical reality shaped by consciousness. Think about this. When scientists explore the nature of atoms and particles, they discover something surprising: the observer effect. This reveals that the act of observation changes the behavior of particles. In other words, consciousness doesn't just perceive reality, it actively shapes it. The implications of this discovery are profound. If reality is shaped by observation, then we are not passive actors in a pre-existing world, we are co-creators of our reality. Imagine this as a canvas. The world is the canvas, and your consciousness is the brush. The brush strokes you make and the colors you choose define the reality you live in. Most people are unaware of this and keep painting unconsciously, letting old habits, fears, and beliefs dictate what shows up on their canvas. But once you understand that your consciousness drives the process, you can pick up the brush and paint with intention, clarity, and determination. This is the formula that changes everything. Ancient philosophies and spiritual traditions have alluded to this profound truth for centuries. Taoism describes the Tao as a fundamental principle that underlies and unifies all things, not necessarily as a force but as a way of understanding the natural order. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna teaches Arjuna about Maya, the illusion of the physical world. The reality he speaks of is not what you see with your eyes, it's something you feel, perceive, and know beyond logic and reason. Physical reality is just superficial, like the skin of a drum, while the deeper non-physical reality is the resonance, the sound, the vibration that travels through. To truly create the reality you desire, you must start here, with the understanding that reality is, first and foremost, non-physical. The physical is secondary, a manifestation of a deeper, invisible truth. What does this mean for you? It means that the world of solid objects, concrete facts, and immutable laws is much more flexible and malleable than you've been led to believe. You have the power to reshape it, not by fighting against its surface but by working with the deeper currents of consciousness and energy that sustain it. Imagine the physical world as a vast ocean. On the surface, there are waves, storms, and chaos, but below, there is deep tranquility and immense depth. Most people spend their entire lives on the surface, being tossed and turned by the waves, never realizing they can dive deeper, where true power resides. The formula lies in understanding this depth and learning how to navigate it. Quantum physics tells us that elementary particles don't exist as objects until they are observed. They exist as probabilities, potentialities waiting to become something. In the same way, your reality is a field of potential. It isn't fixed until you, the observer, make it so. That's why changing your consciousness changes your life, because consciousness is the heart of reality. This is the secret formula that great mystics, sages, and even modern scientists point to. Take a moment to reflect on this. What if the challenges, limitations, and obstacles you see in your life weren't as solid as they seem? What if they were just probabilities, waves of potential waiting for you to choose a new path? When you understand that you are the observer, you realize that you are also the creator. You can collapse the wave of possibilities into a reality that aligns with your deepest desires and truths. This isn't just positive thinking, it's the very fabric of how reality works. When you operate from the understanding that consciousness creates reality, your approach to life fundamentally changes. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start being an active participant, an artist painting on the canvas of existence. You stop reacting to the physical and start interacting with the underlying field of possibilities. This shift is the first and most crucial step of the formula. So, where to begin? Start by silencing the noise of the physical world. Turn inward and connect with the deeper currents of your consciousness. Reflect and ask yourself what kind of reality you want to create. Recognize that every thought, every belief, and every intention sends ripples through the quantum field of possibilities. Begin to see yourself not as a separate, powerless entity but as a powerful consciousness capable of influencing the world in ways that go beyond imagination. The ancient sages were not telling fables when they spoke of the power of mind over matter. They understood that the physical world is malleable, that consciousness is the driving force, the hidden engine that shapes everything we experience. That's why knowing this formula is so powerful. It frees you from the illusion that reality is fixed and unchangeable and puts you in charge, where you belong. The formula is simple. Understand that the real world is not what you see with your eyes but what you feel with your soul. Embrace the truth that consciousness is the foundation of all creation. Once you truly know this, once you internalize it deeply, nothing can stop you because you will have unlocked the most powerful force that exists, the power to create reality from the inside out. But perhaps you're asking, what's the next step? Once you've understood that reality isn't fixed, it's about reclaiming the power of conscious creation. After understanding that consciousness is the architect of reality and that the physical world is just its canvas, the next step is reclaiming your innate power as a conscious creator. Many of us, unconsciously, have abdicated this power, trapped in the illusion that life happens to us instead of through us. The real challenge is not just understanding the principles of consciousness and energy but embodying them so deeply that they become the foundation upon which you build your entire reality. From the moment you were born, you were taught to conform to a shared reality. Society, education, and culture conditioned you to accept a fixed narrative: what is possible, what is impossible, what is real, and what is fantasy. These narratives, though seemingly harmless, are powerful constraints. They are like invisible walls that shape your potential. The key is to recognize that these narratives are not truths, they are collective agreements. And you, as an individual consciousness, have the power to accept or reject, to completely rewrite these agreements. Imagine a child constantly told that they're not good at math. Over time, this belief solidifies in their reality, not because it's inherently true, but because consciousness has accepted it as true and collapsed that potential into a fixed state. The child begins to struggle with math, not because of a lack of ability but because their consciousness was directed to observe reality through a lens of limitation. Now, consider the same child, but who is told that their mind is limitless and capable of understanding anything. That belief opens a field of potential where the child thrives. It's the same consciousness but a different observation, and therefore, a different reality. This example illustrates a profound truth: everything you accept as reality becomes your reality. If you accept that life is hard, full of scarcity and suffering, then you will continue to observe and manifest a reality that reflects those beliefs. But if you begin to shift your consciousness and accept that reality is abundant, fluid, and responsive to your intentions, you will begin to live in a different world. The change doesn't happen outside of you, it happens first within you, and the outer world follows. To reclaim the power of conscious creation, you must first take full responsibility for your role as the observer. Every thought, every belief, every expectation is an order you send out to the quantum field of potential. The universe is always listening, always responding, always collapsing into form in alignment with the frequency of your consciousness. If you perceive yourself as powerless, the universe will reflect that back to you. But when you reclaim your power, the universe responds accordingly. Consider the spiritual teachings of ancient wisdom traditions. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to Arjuna, "You are what you believe you are. You become what you believe you can become." This is not just a metaphor, it is a literal truth. You become your consciousness, and the reality around you is shaped by the depth of your belief in what is possible. That's why sages, saints, and mystics who transcended the physical world speak of enlightenment not as a destination but as a realization. It's the realization that you are the creator, the observer, and the observed, all at once. So, how do you start changing your reality? How do you take on the role of conscious creator? In Taoist philosophy, there is a concept known as Wu Wei, which means effortless action or action without force. This doesn't mean inaction or passivity, but aligning so deeply with the flow of the universe that your actions arise naturally, without struggle or resistance. When you live from a place of conscious creation, you move with the flow of life. You don't push against reality but guide it with the effortless power of your intention and consciousness. That's when things happen, not through force but through alignment. Breaking free from the matrix of perceived limitations is a challenge. Understanding that reality is conscious creation is only the beginning. The real challenge lies in breaking the deeply ingrained patterns and beliefs that have been instilled in us since birth. These patterns form what many call the matrix, an illusory construction of reality where we feel limited, contained, and separate from our true power. The matrix isn't a physical prison, it's a prison of the mind, a web of narratives that keeps us disconnected from our higher consciousness and true potential. Every belief, every thought, every assumption about who you are and what the world is creates a layer of this matrix. It's like a veil that obscures the truth behind the physical reality we live in. Waking up from this illusion is realizing that most of what you consider reality is a story that can be rewritten. To free yourself, you must first recognize the invisible chains that bind you. These chains are made of fear, doubt, judgment, and limitation. They are woven from statements like, "I can't," "I'm not enough," and "this is just how things are." Every time you repeat these phrases, consciously or unconsciously, you reinforce the walls of your mental prison. You accept a version of reality where you are limited, powerless, and separate from the source of creation. Freeing yourself is dismantling these chains one by one, seeing them for what they really are, illusions. The observer effect tells us that the act of observing changes what is being observed. If you perceive the world as rigid and unchangeable, it will be that way for you. But if you start to perceive the world as fluid, open, and responsive to your consciousness, it will begin to behave differently. In some philosophical or metaphorical perspectives, it is suggested that a person's perception can influence their experience of reality. The power lies in knowing that you are not just a passive observer but an active participant who shapes the matrix with every thought and emotion. Ancient mystics and modern quantum physicists agree on one point: everything is energy. This energy is shaped by consciousness. That's why the ancient Hermetic principle states, "The all is mind, the universe is mental." This principle reminds us that the universe itself is a construction of consciousness and that consciousness is the primary fabric of reality. To navigate the matrix and free yourself from it, you must shift from the belief that the world happens to you to the understanding that the world happens through you. The process of awakening is not a one-time event but a series of realizations and expansions. It starts with awareness, moves into understanding, and culminates in embodiment. Awareness is recognizing the patterns and programs that govern your life. Understanding is knowing how those patterns have shaped your experiences and beliefs. Embodiment is living beyond those patterns, consciously and intentionally creating your reality with purpose. A powerful tool for freeing yourself is practicing what some call conscious deprogramming. Start by questioning everything. Question your assumptions about who you are, your purpose, and the very nature of reality. Question the beliefs that say you are small, limited, or powerless. Understand that these beliefs were never yours, they were adopted from a collective consciousness steeped in fear and separation. Contemplative presence is another key to deprogramming. With it, you step out of the constant chatter of the mind and connect to the pure consciousness beneath it. This consciousness is not bound by time, space, or limitation. It is the domain of infinite possibilities. When you meditate, you're not just calming your mind but reconnecting to your source, to your true self beyond the matrix. Mental imagery is a powerful tool, but it goes beyond simple visualization with the mind's eye. True visualization involves feeling, perceiving, and embodying the reality you want to create. It's a practice of aligning your energy with the frequency of the reality you desire. Remember, energy follows attention. If your attention is always on fear, scarcity, and limitation, that's the reality you will create. But if your attention is on abundance, love, and expansion, the universe will have no choice but to reflect that back to you. Consider the teachings of Buddhism that speak of Maya, the illusion of the physical world. In this tradition, Maya is the veil that hides the ultimate reality from us. To see beyond the veil is to reach enlightenment. Understanding that the world we perceive is not the ultimate truth but a reflection of our inner state. The world is like a dream, and just as in a dream, you have the power to become lucid and shape it to your will. To free yourself from the matrix, you must cultivate this lucidity in your waking life. Start seeing every challenge not as a problem but as an opportunity to wake up even more. Every moment is a chance to remember who you are beyond the illusion, to reclaim your power as a conscious creator. This doesn't mean ignoring the physical world or the practical aspects of life. It means seeing them for what they are, expressions of consciousness in form. Another key to liberation is letting go of fear. Some perspectives suggest that fear can have a significant impact on a person's experience and perception of reality. It keeps you small, reactive, and disconnected from your source. But fear itself is an illusion. It's a response to a perceived threat, a distortion of reality. When you understand that you are the creator of your reality, fear loses its power over you. You begin to see that there is nothing to fear because everything is a reflection of your consciousness, and consciousness is limitless. This realization is not about ignoring challenges or pretending that everything is perfect. It's about facing challenges with a different consciousness. Instead of seeing them as threats, see them as mirrors showing where your consciousness needs to expand. Every obstacle is an opportunity for growth. Every setback is a setup for a breakthrough. When you start living from this perspective, you begin navigating the matrix with mastery. Think of reality as a dance. The matrix is the music, and you are the dancer. Most people allow the music to dictate their dance, moving in response to the rhythm, believing they have no choice. But when you awaken, you realize that you can dance to your own rhythm. You can choose the steps, the pace, and the flow. You become the choreographer of your life, not just the dancer. Freeing yourself from the matrix isn't a one-time event, it's an ongoing process of awakening, expansion, and embodying your true nature as a creator. It's about remembering again and again that you are not here to be a passive observer but an active participant in the dance of reality. It's about knowing that the power has always been, is, and will always be within you. The journey continues, and as you move forward, you realize that the formula is not a secret, it's a birthright waiting to be reclaimed. Living beyond the illusion is realizing that every step toward understanding the true nature of reality brings us closer to mastery in the art of creation. When you realize that you have the power to alchemize your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, you begin to see that creating the reality you desire is not about forcing but about aligning. Alignment means tuning your consciousness to the frequency of what you want to experience. Just as a radio must be tuned to the right station to hear a specific broadcast, you must align your inner state with the reality you want to manifest. This involves more than just thinking positively. It requires embodying the feeling of your desired reality, living as if it is already present. When you vibrate at the frequency of what you desire, the universe responds. This is the law of attraction in its truest, deepest sense. When you are aligned with your higher self and the natural rhythms of the universe, creation becomes effortless. You don't have to force or struggle, you simply allow. This isn't passive, it's a state of conscious, dynamic allowing. You become like a surfer, riding a wave, using the power of the wave to move forward with grace and ease. But how do you achieve this state of effortless creation? It all begins with inner clarity. You need to be clear about what you want to create, not just on a superficial level, but in the depths of your soul. What do you truly desire? What does your soul long to express in this life? These are not questions for the mind to answer, but for the heart to feel. The mind may be full of noise, but the heart knows the truth. Once you have that clarity, the next step is to embody it. Embodying means living in the energy of your desire every day. This is where many stumble. They visualize their desires, think about them, but don't live them. Living in the energy of your desire means thinking, speaking, and acting as if it's already your reality. It's not about pretending, but about aligning your consciousness with the reality you want to create. This is where faith comes in. Not blind faith, but faith born from understanding the laws of creation. Just as a gardener plants a seed and has faith that it will grow, you must plant the seeds of your desires in the fertile soil of your consciousness and trust that they will manifest. The gardener doesn't dig up the seed every day to see if it's growing, they water it, nurture it, and allow it to bloom in its own time. Likewise, you must nurture your desires with positive emotions, focus, and inspired actions, trusting that they will manifest in the perfect way and at the perfect time. The final key to mastering the art of creation is cultivating a state of being that transcends duality, the perception of separation between the physical and the spiritual, between the self and the universe. In truth, there is no separation. You are the universe experiencing itself through a unique point of consciousness. When you truly embody this understanding, you move beyond fear, beyond doubt, beyond limitation. You become the embodiment of the formula itself, the consciousness that shapes reality. In this state, life becomes a dance of joy, a celebration of creation. You begin to see the world not as a place of struggle and suffering, but as a playground of possibilities. You understand that you are here not just to survive but to thrive, to create, to explore, and to express the infinite potential of who you are. As you step into this new understanding, remember that the formula has always been within you. The power to create, manifest, and transform your reality is your birthright. It is the essence of who you are. And as you continue on this journey, may you always remember that you are both the dreamer and the dream, the creator and the creation, the dancer and the dance. The world awaits your masterpiece. So go forth and create it, fearlessly, boldly, and with the full knowledge that you are unstoppable.